Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. With me, as always, is Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
According to Big Hit, Jimin felt abdominal pain with a mild sore throat on January 30th, so he visited the emergency room of a nearby hospital where he received a COVID test and other examinations, and he ended up testing positive for COVID, but also acute appendicitis. And then the next day, January 31st, he got appendicitis surgery in the early morning. And Big Hit shared that with us on a Weverse post after it was all over and updated fans with the news. They said that he was not in contact with any other BTS members during that time. I'm surprised at that because I thought they would maybe be hanging out during this vacation time, but maybe they're all just doing their own thing. He ended up being in the hospital for a couple of days, recovering from appendicitis. And if you're not aware of it, the appendix is an organ that's attached to your large intestine, and sometimes it gets swollen or infected, and basically all you can do about it at that point is have it removed through surgery. And you kind of have to do that at that point because if it leaks, the bacteria can infect your body, and basically you can't just not do anything about it if you have a acute appendicitis. So it's a serious thing, and so if you get that pain, then you make sure you get that checked out. But I think what's tricky about it is sometimes there's other things that are painful in that same area, so it's like you wouldn't know exactly what it is. So I think it's important that people know, like, okay, any kind of pain, you should probably get it checked out.
Well, the doctor will know, obviously.
Yeah, they know, like, by palpating. It's like, okay, which organ is in this spot? And that's where it hurts. So it's just kind of crazy that he had his appendix got infected and at the same time found out that he was testing positive for COVID. And I wonder if that had any relation to the other thing. Like, did it cause the appendix to be worse to having COVID, or just so happened that he caught it while, being vulnerable and his appendix was like not doing well?
I doubt it, but who knows? The interesting thing about the appendix is it's supposedly vestigial, correct?
Right.
It supposedly is, but currently they think that maybe there is still a use.
So by vestigial, you mean we don't need it.
We don't need it anymore.
It's not a vital organ anymore. But
so you can just remove it without any problems.
Yeah.
But they now think that maybe there is some sort of use. I forget what it is. I'm not a scientist, but I read that people are changing their minds on that sometime. Maybe.
Oh, really? Do you think...
they think it has some sort of use.
People are at risk if they have it removed? I mean, I guess they don't have a choice because that's the problem at hand.
Honestly, it doesn't have a big use because so many people have it removed and they don't die.
Right.
But it has some sort of purpose.
But it has a purpose that it's not apparent to modern humans right now. Maybe it was useful when you had to struggle and you were in the, we were agricultural.
No, of course, at some point it was useful. At some point it was useful. But they think that even today it has a use.
Oh, okay. Must be related to digestion, though, if it's connected to the large intestine. And then I found out that, most people, it's not a major surgery. It's usually they do it with the laparoscope. And so they only need to cut a few incisions and then they could do it with cameras or whatever. And it's very simple.
It's very easy. Put a camera in, put little tools in, and they can remove something without making a big incision.
Mm-hmm. And I think the appendix is like something really obvious. It's its own thing. So all you have to do is just like tie it off and then cut it off. And the amount of time that Jimin spent in the hospital was only a couple days. So it sounds like he got that kind of a surgery with the scopes. So he was released, and it says that you can go back to normal activities within 2 to 4 weeks. So that does bring up the point of, will he be able to go back to practicing? Like, I'm sure they have rehearsals coming up for their Seoul concerts, which are in March. We don't even know the exact date still, so I don't know if that's still happening because they would need to sell tickets, wouldn't they? It seems like it's kind of getting very close, so I'm not even 100% sure that that's happening still, but
I'm sure it's still happening.
I was thinking, like, okay, is is this surgery going to impact Jimin from rehearsing? Because you're not supposed to really do much for a couple of weeks.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and probably it's going to be a very similar set list to what we saw at the LA concert. So it's, at the very least, Jimin knows like what it's going to be and like which choreo it's going to be. So and it's not like he will be rehearsing like all new things. And if he had to miss some of it, he wouldn't be that far behind. So that's what I was wondering is like, will his surgery impact those preparations?
They're tough. Koreans are tougher than Americans.
They probably are, They just get right back to it.
There's no probably about it. They are. Don't be fooled by the makeup and the fine features. They're tough.
Well, we already see like they're very hardworking, probably more than like the average person, like K-pop idols.
Yeah, like look at whatchamacallit, the Inferno Island or the Love Inferno.
Single Inferno.
Oh, okay, that's what the name of it is.
Yeah, all of those people own businesses. They own brands.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Oh.
I was going to say that look at American Bachelor. People are put up in nice hotels and houses and stuff. But for the Korean Bachelor, they just put them in a tent and told them to cook their own food. Jesus. When would we ever ask American Bachelor people to ever do anything? If we had to ask them to cook their own food, could they even do it? Maybe somebody could fry an egg. I don't know. Maybe.
There would be...
Maybe some people could boil some water.
Like one person who knows how to cook out of like 25.
And that person would have to cook for 25 people. I don't think they could do it. I don't think so.
That's what seems like always happens on American reality shows. There's always one person who can cook. Like if you watch Big Brother, if you watch Bachelor, it's like there's like exactly one or two people who actually know how to cook. So that is true.
When really it should be everybody. I mean, isn't cooking kind of an important skill for everybody? I don't know. It's only not important if you are rich enough to have servants, right?
Yeah.
Or eat out all the time.
I think Americans are very attached to eating out, getting DoorDash, getting stuff delivered and made for them. So that's very common. So Big Hit has not specified still when BTS's vacation is supposed to end, but on January 29th, several music insiders predict that BTS members will continue their vacation until they begin preparing for their Seoul concert in March. It's like, well, yeah, that's the only thing that we know they're going to do. So it's like, you guys aren't brilliant for thinking of that. It's like, that's what I thought. Although that seems like a long vacation for them, but I mean, who am I to say like, oh wait, that's too long of a vacation, because they work hard the whole year, and so they will most likely not be doing anything public until the Seoul concerts. And Big Hit has said that after their vacation ends, BTS will be focusing on preparing for their concert and an album that will quote unquote open a new chapter. So I don't know what that means exactly, but maybe some like different kind of music than we've heard from BTS before, or a different theme, something unexpected. So after the March concerts and after they perform for the Grammys, I guess everybody's assuming they will perform at the Grammys.
Wow, really? No, why?
That's what this article is saying.
Who wrote the article? As an American?
All K-pop.
Oh.
I guess, I don't know if they know that for a fact.
They've never performed for the Grammys before, right? They've never done it, right? Have they?
No, they did.
Oh, okay.
Like the last Grammys, but it was a remote.
Oh, well, I don't consider it. Was it going to be a remote again, you think?
No, I think they would go. If they're asked to perform, I think they would go. I don't
think they should.
Now that they can go.
Oh, my God. Okay.
But remember we said last week it's going to be in Vegas in April 3rd.
Maybe they just want a Vegas trip out of it.
Yeah, they'd have to be making those plans right now. So we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure, if they're going to be there. Because I don't know how they could not announce it. Like, people would want to tune in if they know BTS is going to perform at the Grammys. And I'm sure the Grammys would want to publicize that if that was happening. So hopefully we'll find out about that. And BTS is also supposed to be releasing a new album. And people think that's going to be at some point after the concerts and after the Grammys. So that looks like April that there's going to be a new album. And that's fine. I don't think that's a bad time to do it. It just seems like for BTS, that is a long time from the album before. But I guess they're going to look at more of what Western pop stars do as far as like...
A long time? It's like a year, right?
B came out in 2020. That was their last album.
So 1.5 maybe?
Yeah, a year and a half. But for
I don't think
K-pop,
that's a long time.
K-pop, that's a long time.
Yeah, for K-pop. We've discussed this.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's okay because they have releases all the time. It's just not like a full album.
Mm-hmm.
They have collabs and singles and, mixtapes. Maybe we'll get a mixtape soon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because on their vacation, they've every once in a while a member will post a photo of them in the studio, and so they're working on something. It's maybe not be something altogether, but maybe it's something that's an individual project. So that could mean a mixtape is coming. And, a lot of them have stuff they've recorded. We just don't know if, it's up to each member to decide, okay, do I have the songs I want and how I wanted it to sound for the mixtape? Because they're very particular about stuff they release for their individual projects. And, things have been delayed before. And so that's why people are really looking forward to when there's going to be a V mixtape or Jungkook mixtape, because it's like, we know they have some stuff recorded. We just don't know how much and when that's going to be.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. They should snub the Grammys.
They should send a message, huh?
It's a waste of time. They're not going to win that one category. And is that category even one that's going to be on air?
I think if they win, it would be aired. And if they were going to be on screen for it. But if they just weren't even going to go or didn't record a video, then maybe it would just be announced in the pre-show or something. But I think the Grammys, if BTS wins, they would want to show them if they're willing to be shown, But I was wondering if since they have BTS's vacation is lasted from December to maybe middle of March or early March. I wonder why, or if they considered, because some of them want to do acting at some point, like V or Jin, and I wonder if they thought maybe I should do an acting role in that time, or if they just wanted to treat vacation as vacation. It's like, do, no work, because you might not get a chance to do acting until, a couple years later. So I wonder if they considered doing that, like trying to squeeze in like a role in a show, or if they thought, well, I could do that, but then maybe that'll be too distracting because it's like appearing in a TV drama that will take away from BTS music when that's released. It's
so much work, really,
to memorize.
To be honest, it's so much work. Yeah. Like you're talking about a 2-month window.
Mm-hmm.
That's not easy, especially when you're not. Now, I'm not an actor, but I know some, best way to describe them is amateur actors, but...
Some struggling actors.
Some very struggling actors. Just put it that way. But it still takes time to get ready, to memorize your lines.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a window of a couple months.
Yeah.
It's not enough. It's not enough. And especially if you're not, you don't have a lot of experience acting.
Right. They've done it before.
It's very difficult,
but not recently, so they wouldn't have like all the honed skills.
I just don't know that it's something you can just sort of do, or something you just can cram into a 2-month window like that. It's not like going like running an errand to the grocery store. You have to really get into that space.
Mm-hmm. Takes a lot of time.
Well, just ask yourself, like, well, if you do your job and someone just said, hey, you want to act in a thing, and you said sure, okay. Tomorrow, you have a 2-month window where you need to do it. It'd be very difficult.
Yeah.
It'd be very, very difficult. I don't think that it's something that... I wouldn't say it's impossible. I don't think it would be pleasant at all.
Yeah. It definitely takes a commitment. It's like, here, memorize these 20 pages of dialogue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't even know.
You don't have to memorize stuff. You could do the cheap and dirty way where you show up on set and people read the lines to you. You've seen that. I mean, everybody knows that happens.
So you just have to know like a page at a time or so.
You don't even have to know a page at a time. People will like Off camera, people will say the line to you. Now, your performance will probably not be very good, but, well, whatever.
Well, because I see,
Watch The Disaster Artist.
Yeah.
You'll see it.
Yeah.
Great movie. The Disaster Artist. It's a bad movie. No, the movie is good, The Disaster Artist. But it's about the making of a bad movie.
Yeah. And it's like, this is how bad it can get
Yes.
as far as acting. Because I see, there's other idols that do acting like in between things, but then you're right. It's not like Jisoo from Blackpink. Like, she can take as much time as she wants. It's not like they have
Right.
immediate.
They're not doing anything.
Yeah, they let them take however much time they want in their side projects. So it's not the same as BTS, who's like a very limited window here. But I only mention that because a lot of people are like, oh, when are we gonna see V in a drama again? Or oh, we want to see Jin because he trained in acting. So might have to.
Don't worry. They have plenty of time.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
They can do it later on. Don't worry. So something you may have heard in the news recently regarding Spotify, which is the streaming service that we use along with many millions of other people. Spotify right now has exclusive rights to the Joe Rogan podcast, and his podcast has, a lot of different guests, and sometimes they're there to talk about COVID and like how effective masks are and like different COVID treatments. And, you can see how that might seem controversial to some people out there. And so there's a lot of people that feel like he's spreading bad information, and they want Spotify to take down his podcast, even though I don't know why they would do that since they paid a lot of money for it. So that's not being
a lot of money for it.
Not being very reasonable.
$100 million.
Yeah. And so
well, they did take down some episodes.
Oh yeah, they did do that. They have the, I guess, authority to not have some of the episodes out there, permanently. But as far as artists, like, Spotify, half of it is podcast and half of it is music that's streaming. And so that's kind of...
No, it's not half.
I mean, I don't know half and half, but it's kind of
mostly music.
Unique platform in that it has both things on there. So there's some artists who have threatened to take their music off Spotify if Joe Rogan stays on there.
Not threatened, they took it off.
Yeah, at first Neil Young threatened it, and then, a couple days later he's like, okay, I guess this isn't happening, so I would like to take down my music. And
which they didn't have to do, I don't think. They didn't have to do it.
They didn't have to listen to him. They could just say, no, we want your music on here.
Because he doesn't own his music.
Well, he must have had
sold it.
Permission if he said that, and
I think they did it as a courtesy.
Oh, okay.
I think they just, if he wants it, then we'll do it. Just for optics.
Right. They want to...
They didn't have to.
Respect the artist's wishes.
Even though they didn't have to.
Right.
He doesn't own his music.
Yeah, and that's the other part of this is like, the people that are saying that, do they even have the ability, like, as far as the ownership of the property? Because, Taylor Swift raised that whole issue of, like, who owns their masters and all that. And so, not everybody owns all their stuff. In fact, very few artists own their actual music. And so right now, Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and probably a couple other people took down their music from Spotify, all because of that. And that's only a couple artists, but the problem is, the articles I'm reading, it's like, what if other artists try to get on the bandwagon and they say, yeah, me too. If some bigger artists say that, then, Spotify is kind of in a tough position because they don't really want to take down Joe Rogan's podcast entirely, but then they also don't want to lose all these big artists. So there's some fans that are saying like, hey, Taylor Swift, I want you to pull your music from Spotify to try to force this issue. And it's only a matter of time before somebody says, hey, BTS, why don't you guys take down your music from Spotify? And
is anyone telling BTS to take them down?
I did see one article that said, if A-list artists like Taylor Swift or BTS or Adele try to do this, then that would force Spotify to, have a tough decision. So I just feel like, okay, it's a matter of time before some fans are bringing up BTS and dragging them into this whole issue, which I doubt that they even are aware of all this that's going on. That's like they probably don't have anything against Joe Rogan or even know what he's all about or anything like that.
It's also not their decision.
Yeah. I mean, it's
certainly a Big Hit's decision.
It's really a hype thing. So, but yeah, in America, it seems like the artist is the one who's trying to speak for their catalog that's on Spotify, which, you know, maybe they don't even have all the control over. They're just talking, you know, like, I'm trying to be an activist and make something happen here. I just don't want this to spread to other people, because I don't know why we can't just have Spotify and then have everything available. I don't want it to be like, I'm taking my stuff down and then...
Well, for one thing, I don't think there's any danger of BTS taking their stuff down. They're not wrapped up in, you know, the COVID politics of the United States. They seem to try to keep themselves separate from that. So if you're a BTS fan, I wouldn't worry about it. They're not going to take their music down. That being said, as far as my opinion on the broader issue, I think that people have the right to freely associate with what they want to associate with, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't want to do business with a company, you don't have to. So this means Neil Young and Joe. And by the way, if you don't know who these people are, don't blame yourself, because they're boomer artists, right? They're artists that people who are like 70 years old listen to. Mm-hmm. And some 50-year-olds claim to listen to them, but I think they're lying. Challenge them to name a couple Neil Young songs. It's like,
name 3 songs.
Yeah. and then sing a little bit of them. Bet you anything they can't. What I'm trying to say is his music is bad, and I have listened to it. So I agree with free association, but here's what I don't. It's a nuance. It's a very fine line. I agree with free association. You can go ahead and do business with who you want to do, but I don't like the precedence that it sets for you to remove your business dealings with people. It's just like, I'm not going to do business with you unless you censor this person.
Right.
Like, unless you silence Joe Rogan, I won't do business with you. That's essentially what Neil Young said. I'm not putting words in his mouth. And reflexively, the people who defend this action will say, well, it's not a matter of free speech. It's not the First Amendment. And in case if you're not in America, the First Amendment is a law. It's actually like a legal principle that we abide by that protects free speech. This is not protected by that, because it's not the government telling you. It's not a First Amendment issue because the government is not censoring you. But to say it's not a free speech issue, I disagree, because free speech it existed before the United States of America wrote a constitution. Okay, that concept existed. So don't say it's not a free speech issue. The free speech only refers to this idea that speech is something good and that should be protected, not at all costs, but if at all possible. Right? It's basically saying we value speech as a priority, and we want to protect it. That's a value. It exists independent of any law some Americans wrote in a document, no matter how important that document is, which, Americans think that document is important. It's called the Constitution. Americans talk about it all the time. But it doesn't mean that the idea, the value started with that document. It did not. So is it a free speech issue? Yes, it is, because it speaks to the value of it. Do you promote it or do you not? Do you think it's something that is important to defend and uphold, or do you not? Now, there's different opinions on this. You can run. There's a whole spectrum of safety versus speech, right? Like, at some point, speech should not be protected because it harms people, right? The most obvious example is physical threats of violence, or if I tell somebody to go kill that person over there, that's not protected by free speech because it's causing immediate harm. Or if I yell fire in a crowded theater, people might get trampled. It's causing immediate harm. That type of speech is not protected generally. That's the precedent, even legally, because it causes immediate harm. Mm-hmm. Is Joe Rogan causing immediate harm? Some people would say yes, probably. I would definitely say no. But that's the question you have to ask. Like, where on the spectrum do you lie? And at what point is safety more important than speech and protecting speech? That's for you to decide. There's some people who think that speech is not even that important, so I don't even care to protect it. Okay, fine, that's your opinion. But I would tell you that in the United States, we have historically valued speech, and we've sought to protect it. And so for people who say, well, since the government's not involved, it's not important. Has no bearing on the First Amendment. It doesn't have any bearing on the First Amendment, but it has no bearing on free speech. I disagree. It does, because it has a bearing on the cultural value we place on it. The less people respect it as a cultural good, as a thing, a norm to espouse and to protect, the more it damages it as a concept in this country, right? What I will say is this: legislation, laws flow from culture and not vice versa. Culture doesn't flow from laws. Like you could write a law tomorrow that says that everybody has to eat sushi on Friday. They're not going to do it, right? Because our culture in America is not to eat sushi on Fridays. It's to eat whatever the hell we want, right? Or if it says something like you can't eat beef, our culture is based on eating beef. You can't change it with a law. It's not going to change, right? But if you change the culture slowly and slowly Americans stop eating beef, then it can be very easy to write a law to say that, well, you can't eat beef now. It will easily pass because we don't eat it, right? Just like there's laws that you say you can't eat dogs in America. Very, very easy to pass that law because culturally, as Americans, we think that's terrible.
Yeah.
We don't eat dogs. Our culture is against that. Some cultures might be for it, in which case it can't pass such a law, right? So legislation flows from culture and not the other way around. So when people say that this has nothing to do with speech, I disagree. When you slowly cut away at the value they place on speech and protecting it, in a cultural context, this has nothing to do with law. Again, even if Spotify fires Joe Rogan, it's not breaking any law. Okay, if this is the free market, this free association, Joe Rogan has plenty other options too. He could take his podcast anywhere. So I wouldn't call it censorship in that sense or anything. It wouldn't be illegal. But it damages the cultural importance we place on speech. And I don't think that's a good thing. I really don't think that's a good thing. So circling back to what I was saying, people, well, you would say, well, doesn't Neil Young have the right to, take his business wherever he wants to take it? Yes, I do agree he has the right. But here's the difference. Here's the very nuanced difference. If Neil Young just says, well, I don't like that you do business with Joe Rogan, so I'm going to take my business elsewhere. I think that's fine. I think that's well within your right. I think it's morally fine. And I think it still dovetails with a belief in the principle of free speech. Like, Neil Young could do that and still say he believes in free speech. He just wants to do business with other people because he doesn't like Joe Rogan. However, if he takes his music away and says, I'll bring it back if you censor Joe Rogan, there's the difference. His intent is to censor another person.
That's what he wanted.
Yes, and that's what he said. And I think that is wrong.
And that's what is troubling, is that people are trying to leverage their music catalog, and it's like, I'm going to take this away unless you censor this one person. How come his reaction wasn't like, well, I'm going to start a podcast on Spotify and I'm going to have guests that say different things than what Joe Rogan's guests would say. We're going to combat the misinformation that's out there. It's like, he could have said that, and that would have been a much better response as far as free speech goes, because then you're still respecting free speech, because it's like, well, I'm adding to the conversation, and the guests that'll be on my podcast will say different things than on his podcast. But instead, he's using his catalog as a bargaining chip, and then who loses out is the Neil Young fans. Like, what if you're a Neil Young fan, but you're also a Joe Rogan fan? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover there, and like, all Neil Young did was like screw over his own fans, like, who want to listen to him on Spotify. So I just feel like, okay, I hope not too many more artists follow that, because it's very inconvenient when you have to like switch your streaming platform just because, like, oh, your favorite artist left it because they want this one podcast censored. It's like, okay, who cares? Can everybody just be on all the platforms?
To play devil's advocate, their side of the argument is that Joe Rogan does immediate harm. They think he does immediate harm to people because he puts on people who question vaccines, and if some people don't get vaccines because of that, and then those people, if they die because they don't get vaccines, he caused immediate harm to people. They think it is like yelling fire in a crowded theater. I don't agree, because I don't think it's immediate, right? There's at least a couple steps there in between what Joe Rogan does and people dying of COVID.
Yeah. People are deciding.
It's like it's your decision, It's not like he sort of almost quasi-force you to behave in a dangerous way, which is what would happen if you yelled fire in a crowded theater. That person almost forced you to behave in a reckless way that endangered everybody. The stuff he says on the podcast, you still have the full right to make your own choice and decide to get a vaccine or not. That's totally within your control. So I don't agree that he is causing immediate harm to people. And if you think that he's causing immediate harm to people, then I would ask you, well, Do concerts cause immediate harm to people? More people have to get in cars that day than didn't get in cars that day because the concert had happened, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And lots of people die in cars. The less cars we have moving around on the road, the fewer people die.
Yeah.
So anything that causes more people to get into a car that day, such as work, such as concerts, cause people to die. Cause more people to die than would have died. Do people not have the right to put on a concert?
Right.
That's my question. Do they not have the right to put on a concert?
There's a lot of everyday things that you can call them dangerous if you frame it the right way.
But in my opinion, as long as it didn't cause immediate harm and intentional. Intent matters, right? If you fake cry out fire in a crowded theater, you want to cause harm to people. And it probably will cause harm to people, and therefore it's not covered by free speech. Okay? Not only legally, but even in principle. Right? No one would say, hey, that's just fine because we think free speech is a good... No one would say that sort of speech is covered. So I guess it just matters where you are on the spectrum, right? But if you're on this... If where you're at is you think that his harm, no matter at that level of indirectness, is sufficiently bad that it should be censored, then I ask you, why are we not preventing people from driving? Unnecessarily, right? You can drive to work. You can drive to the grocery store. That's all. Anything else? Maybe not the government, because in this situation it's not the government restricting you, right? Maybe your car company should install something in your car to shut off your car when you need to do anything besides go to work. That's a private company, right? That's a private company restricting what you can use, what you can see, what you can do, correct? Mm-hmm. Just like Spotify, if they censor Joe Rogan, it's a private company. So it's not covered by the First Amendment. But what if your car company shut your car off, except for like the 9 to 5, like 9 o'clock commute, 5 o'clock commute for work? Why? Because unnecessary extraneous driving is dangerous. And it is. Factually, we know it is. The more driving you do, the more dying will happen. Right? Driving is a very dangerous thing. At least like 25,000 people in the United States die on the roads every year. Why don't we restrict driving?
More people are probably still dying from driving than from COVID.
Well, no, that's not true. Like 1 million people die from COVID. But a lot of people die from both. So, well, would you be for your car company shutting your car off for your own good? Not letting you make the choice. You can't drive in these hours. Would you be for that? And remember when I said legislation stems from values. So as soon as values become entrenched, it's very easy. And not just easy, it's almost logical for laws to be written that reflect those values. These are the values of our people. There may as well be laws that enforce them. That's what will happen. Now there will be laws as to when you can drive. That's what's going to happen. Do you want to walk down that road? Do you want to start yourself on that slippery slope? I don't know. Up to you. But this is why I'm totally against things like people trying to censor even on private platforms, even on private companies. Well, it's not a private company, it's publicly traded, but, I'm against it because it develops a culture where this sort of thing we're near to it. It's normalized.
I don't want this tactic to catch on with other artists. Like, they're going to start getting on this bandwagon and, like, clout chase. And it's like, oh, yeah, I'm with Neil Young. I'm going to pull my music, too. And then it's bigger and bigger artists doing it. And then it's just a thing they're doing because it's the cool thing to protest now. And, like, no one's really even giving any thought to it. And it would be a lot more thoughtful if these people said, hey, I disagree with this guest on the Joe Rogan show, and here's a 10-minute YouTube of what I disagree with and what I have to back that up. It's like, just post a video or something, or post a TikTok, and then say why you think that's wrong. Like, we need to stop trying to cancel everybody that you disagree with or you don't like to have them talking. That's just not the right attitude if you're pro free speech. And we're supposed to all be for free speech if you live in America.
Well, first of all, I won't even be uncharitable and say that they're just doing it because it's cool. I do, like, if people think that they're saving lives or it's that important or it's a life and death issue, okay, I take your word. You think that. But I just ask you to think about the second and third order ramifications of what you're doing. Okay? Down the line, what will promoting this kind of culture do? You say right now that it's not a free speech issue because it's just Spotify. They're a private company, but eventually the government starts to reflect the culture you create. And once the government gets involved, their actions are backed by violence. right? Not necessarily like they come in your house with guns, but there's implied violence. If you don't comply, you're imprisoned. That is violence. Do you want a world where this sort of thing is backed by violence? I don't think you do. Even though you think that this cause is good right now, just think about the second and third order consequences. Because right now you think that this is a good enough cause to be worth this sort of action. But years down the road, it's not always going to be you deciding what's a good enough cause to be worth violence, correct? It's going to be some other people deciding what other causes are worth violence. And they may make decisions that you don't quite agree with. They may say, well, we think the government should stop you from saying this. And you don't agree with that. But too bad, you already started the ball rolling, you got the culture going, and now this is just an accepted way of doing things. And we have the legislation, we have the culture. It's all on this side now.
Well, they're trying to get their point of view out there, and I don't think this is the right tactic to do it. And I don't want to see artists we all like, oh, I'm pulling out of Spotify, because it just ruins it for the fans. Like, this is not a fan-friendly thing. Like, yeah, people protest things, and then they have their political point of view or whatever, and that's fine, but now you're affecting fans, and I don't understand what is the benefit of artists cutting off their fans from one way of fans listening to their music. It just doesn't seem very beneficial, and that's why I think it's more of a bandwagon thing or a clout chasing thing, because the artists, if they were really thinking about it, they wouldn't do it, but they want to be on, like, quote unquote the right side of history or whatever, and then be on the side that they agree with. I don't think BTS is going to get involved in this because, they're not American, so they probably aren't even seeing how this is an issue right now in America with this podcast. But it could happen. Like, if there's a dominoes falling, it's like if some other artists do it, maybe they will be pressured into doing it. But I don't think it's that likely.
I doubt it.
And I'm glad, because I feel like, okay, at Hybe, they're thinking logically. They wouldn't want to do this to fans. They wouldn't do this to ARMY. There's so many people that listen solely through Spotify. So I don't think they would do that, because there would just be a lot of backlash about that. So back in December, right after the Permission to Dance LA concerts, we all remember that BTS opened their own personal Instagram accounts, which was surprising because nobody saw that coming. And now recently, Bang PD has decided to start his own Instagram, and he opened his account on January 19th with the username @HitmanB72, and he posted his first photo, which was a picture of himself and Scooter Braun. And as we all know, Scooter Braun is part of Hybe labels when, Hybe bought Ithaca Holdings, and then they made Scooter Braun co-CEO of Hybe USA. And so that was the first picture that Bang PD posted, is himself and Scooter Braun. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. Maybe that's a photo he took recently, and he was like, yeah, let me post that on Instagram. And I remember he started his feed a few weeks ago, and I saw it. And I saw, oh, some other people are following this, so maybe I need to follow it. But then you couldn't really tell if it was really his account or if it was a fake account, because he didn't get verified right away. So it's hard to tell. And I was like, I don't know if I should follow this account. It might not be Bang PD. Mm-hmm. But, a few days later, he did get verified. So it is, in fact, his account. And so that was his first picture. And then since then, he posted a second picture with someone named Tommy Brown. And if you look at Tommy Brown's Instagram, he seems to be a producer at Universal who works with a lot of American artists such as Ariana Grande and The Weeknd. And so given the fact that Bang PD posted his first photo of Scooter Braun, who is not only co-CEO of Hybe America, but also Ariana Grande's manager, and his second photo was with a producer who often works with Ariana Grande and other American artists. A lot of comments are speculating that this means that there is going to be a BTS Ariana Grande collab in the near future, which we already thought there would be anyway because of the company.
This is not a shock
coming together. Yeah, but then it just seems like, okay, would Bang PD drop clues like that? Is he trying to say this is happening soon, or is he... I don't know if he is the kind of person who would have like a clues dropped in his Instagram, or he doesn't seem to have a particular aesthetic. It just seems like here's someone I was hanging out with today and here's the picture. Like his feed isn't like like RM's or J-Hope, so they have a very like specific aesthetic on it. So I don't know if he's trying to drop any clues with that, or if that just happens to be, you know, the important people he took a picture with recently, and he's like, yeah, let me put this on my Instagram because maybe that's what my fans would want to see. But I thought, okay, maybe his next picture will be another clue, or if it keeps the trend going as to pointing towards BTS Ariana Grande collab. So that's something to just keep an eye on, because Bang PD, it looks like he took both of these pictures in LA, so I don't know if he is there a lot or if he was just there during the time the BTS was there when they were doing their concerts. It's hard to say because it's not really, you can't really tell when the picture was taken. You could only tell when it was posted. So he could have been there, you know, all this time, or this is taken, you know, 2 months ago. We don't really know. But the other thing I wanted to remind people is that he stepped down as the CEO of Hybe, and so now he's only the chairman. But the purpose for doing that was so he could be more involved in the music producing part. So maybe he's trying to show, like, this is what I've been up to. I'm working with Scooter Braun and trying to get Ariana Grande on board with this collab or whatever it is, and, you know, working with this one producer. Maybe he's trying to tell us good things are coming soon, and maybe it'll be on this next BTS album.
I mean, if anyone would know, he'd know, right?
Yeah.
And also, we expect this collab.
We expect this, and I thought it would have happened already. But
why would you not do this? You purchased the company.
Yeah. You have all these artists. Like, there's got to be some kind of song with Ariana Grande and with Justin Bieber at some point that they have to do that.
And what's crazy is it still seems it's out there. Like, oh, no way that could happen. But we know factually they're one company now. Yeah,
it could very easily happen. Yeah. And I think if you don't follow BTS super closely, like you're not a fan of them, that might be shocking to you. Yeah. Like if you suddenly, there's a song with Justin Bieber and BTS, or a song with Ariana Grande and BTS, like that might be shocking to you. But if you follow BTS, you're like, yo, that makes a lot of sense. They're all in the same company. Of course they did a song together. So it seems like it's just a matter of time before it happens. And I don't know if Bang PD's trying to give us a clue, or he just so happened to be with these people and that's the pictures he posted. He might not even be trying to tell us anything. There's a Reddit post titled, "You're not some sort of superior fan for disliking fan service." And the purpose of it was there's some fans that like fan service and there's fans that don't like it. And this Redditor was trying to say that you're not better for disliking it because you're on the side of idols who have to do this. And, you know, I don't even know if idols dislike doing that or if they just, you know, that's part of the job, so they're fine with it. But I think that the bottom line is like trying to say you're a better kind of fan than other kinds of fans because of enjoying fan service or not enjoying it or disliking it. There shouldn't be any differentiation. You know, everybody can be the type of fan they want to be. I think was the point of this Reddit post.
Well, let's clear what is fan service for people who don't know. I'm sure everyone does. So I don't quite know.
Yeah, it's kind of vague to define it, but it's just kind of like playing up to the crowd, like doing what fans want you to be doing. And sometimes that consists of, you know, eggyo, like acting cute, or, you know, when there's
acting like you're friends with fans and fan signings. And
yeah, especially when it comes to fan meetings, this comes up is when, you know, or the members act really friendly with each other, and maybe in real life they don't get along that well. They're just acting like they do. Or, you know, two idols that people are quote unquote shipping, like they act like they're really close.
Feeding into this closing the distance between fans and artists. Feeding into this sort of fantasy that they're friends or something. or
Yeah.
they are what you want them to be, you know?
Doing the behaviors that fans
Right,
want to
as
see.
opposed to just making their music and clocking in, clocking out.
Yeah, and just being yourself. Like if you
Right.
have your own personality, maybe you're like, yeah, I don't really talk that
Yeah,
much.
I don't like you guys.
I just sit here.
Right.
I'm whatever. I'm just here to sign autographs and not really act that friendly because that's not my personality.
Right.
But yeah, so there's some people that are like, I dislike fan service and therefore I'm a great fan because I'm not the one who's forcing idols to act like that, you know? And maybe they're not even acting like that. Maybe they like, you know, putting on this persona for the fans and making them happy. But yeah, I don't think any kind of fan is superior to another as far as like what is it that you want out of the idols. But yeah, sometimes it does get out of hand though, like what fans want, and like they ask them like ridiculous things
Oh, yeah. Like
during
what?
these fan meetings. It's like, here, wear this baby bonnet or something. I think that's happened before, like to the younger idols, like they've given that like a baby bonnet to like Jungkook or whatever. It's like, here, wear this, and it's like, oh, that's cute, whatever. And it's like, okay, that can be embarrassing, like
Right.
the things that they make them do.
Right. Well, personally, I don't like these things. I don't participate in them. Like I don't have any interest in fan signings or like, I don't even watch V lives of people or like even their appearances on game shows and things. That doesn't appeal to me very much. And I have to admit that when I first got into K-pop, that's kind of stuff I did find pretty cringe. I'm like, well, what are you guys, this sort of parasocial relationship?
Do you think as far as being a Western fan is...
Yeah, because I was used to just, okay, the artist is, they perform, we have a very limited relationship. There's no pretense that we're friends in any sort of way or we have any kind of relationship. I just watch you in a very limited context, and then that's it.
Right.
That's all you give me, and that's all I expect. So the whole interacting with that was foreign to me, and the aegyo and like playing up to the fans and the shipping and like just the parasocial relationship that does sort of mark a lot of K-pop.
Yeah.
I did find it pretty cringe, and I did think, oh well, that's not me, and I can understand the people who, if they don't participate in that, they maybe don't want to be associated with that. Mm-hmm. And then what they do is they talk down on the people who do have that sort of relationship to sort of make this demarcation that, well, that's those types of fans, I'm not that type of fan.
Right.
So I did think it was kind of cringe, a lot of this stuff. I won't name names, but certain people who travel to Korea all the time and go to twice signings, I just thought was cringe. Right? I was like, what do you think? You have like an actual relationship with them? And then they bring a gift for them. I would never do that for an artist. Like, my gift is I paid hundreds of dollars for your ticket, perform, and then I leave, and then you leave.
Right.
That's all I expect. That's all I think our relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we don't have one. But I've since kind of changed my mind on this, in that, it's the world is changing and people are so siloed and disconnected from other people. We don't have a lot of close human relationships anymore. Everyone's online, and I know you think they're your online friends or your close friends or not. They're not, though, right? Unless you actually meet them in person and talk to them, I don't think they're really your close friends. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're not the type of relationship that human beings are social animals that we fed on since we were human beings. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's optimal. So are parasocial relationships suboptimal? Yes, in my opinion they are. But at the end of the day, for a lot of people, maybe that's all they have. And if that's all you have, then even just a coping mechanism, I think it's valid. If this is the type of thing that gets people through the day, then so be it. Why? Then I don't have a problem with it. It is what it is, right? And I can't change. It's not like I can take the internet down and make our lives less siloed. Mm-hmm. So I can't do that. I don't think anyone has the power to do that. So I think we have to accept the permanence and even maybe the growth of some of these parasocial relationships. and we may think that they're unhealthy. Well, are they less healthy than actually having a group of friends and going out and seeing people face to face? Yeah, I would argue they are. But since that's no longer on the table, that's not happening for a lot of people. The question is not, are parasocial relationships with your artists less healthy than that? The question is, are they less healthy than the real alternative, which is maybe nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want people to feel more alone.
Yeah.
You know, so for some people, maybe this is, well, they feel like they have a friend. They feel like there's somebody out there who sees them or gets them or understands them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard so many ARMYs say that, like, okay, BTS, that's what got them through this really tough time, this depressed time, or that gets them through the day. And so we shouldn't want to take that away.
Yeah, and if it's what gets you through the day, then maybe it's not a bad thing. Because unless I can provide an alternative that does a better job, I'm not in a place to say that this is a bad thing, right? And I currently cannot provide you an alternative, I think, that is better. Because this is the way the world is right now. This is the way, technology has made us, right? So for a lot of people, this is what... And again, some people would say, well, it's not real. It's not real. They're not really your friends. That's just all in your head. Like, well, I mean, theoretically, everything's in your head, right? Theoretically. You've ever heard of, like, the thought experiment where your brain could just be a brain in a jar, right? I don't know if you have heard that. But there's no difference. Like, you wouldn't know the difference if because all your sensations are just impulses fed into your brain.
Yeah.
So if your brain was just floating in a jar somewhere and had all the same impulses fed into it, it would be the same thing.
Oh, like if you're in the Matrix or something.
Yeah. I guess that's a better example. But if it feels real to you, I'm not saying it's the most healthy thing, but it may be healthier than the alternative of there being no social relationships. Like, human beings need to be social creatures. We cannot sit behind a computer screen all the time and not interact with people, not have friends, not have a feeling that there's people out there who see us and care about us. And if you sort of get that need is met from a parasocial relationship with a K-pop artist, even though it's not quote unquote real, maybe it does the job, right? There are people alive today with artificial hearts. Their heart is not real, but they walk around. The blood pumps through, right? Mm-hmm. They live. And it's definitely not ideal. It's definitely not ideal. You'd rather have a real heart. Trust me. Well, don't trust me. I don't have a fake heart or anything, but you live, though. And maybe we're just at the point where, well, an artificial heart is better than dying, right? I don't mean to be that bleak. It's not like people are going to die if they don't have a parasocial relationship, but it's part of being a healthy human being, having social relationships, being social, just having these human connections. And if this is sort of filling that gap that technology is taking away from us, then I view it as, if not a positive thing, a necessary thing, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not positive, but it's necessary.
Well, and that's why K-pop has so many really strongly dedicated fans to their groups, is because they're unique, and then they're able to connect with people.
People feel
on that level.
Different kind of connection. I've never felt that connection with celebrities, ever.
No.
I've never, ever felt that connection. So my brain is, I'm slowly starting to understand it a little bit better because it's so new to me. It's so foreign to me, right? But I think I have a good grasp of it now. I think I have a good grasp of the dynamic and what need that fills with some people. So when you see somebody who's just a crazy fan and they feel like, oh, Jim, Jungkook is my friend or something, you might just dismiss them as like, oh, you're crazy or something. But no, I think maybe what's happening is humans have a need, a social need, and modern technology has sort of cut a lot of that off at the knees, and they're looking to fill it in however they can. And
yeah.
This connection that they can find maybe fill some of that. So you're not better. You're just luckier because you're the type of person who's always had those types of relationships. So you never felt like, oh, so-and-so K-pop artist is my friend. But you never had to feel that way. Mm-hmm. Because you've always had like a very strong friend network or something.
Right.
So that's just a privilege, or not a privilege, a luxury, or, just you're lucky. You never had to look for that in your K-pop artists. You can just, the way I do, you can just look at them as just music artists. I listen to you for 5 minutes and I'm done. I don't want anything else from you. I don't expect anything else from you. But some people, they do. They want to go to fan signings. They want to, they want to bring like a gift for Nyan or something. It's like, oh, you're my favorite,
Yeah.
because they feel they have this. Now, of course, this is not to say that any of this should grow to be some sort of unhealthy obsession. That's obviously a fine line you don't want to cross.
Yeah, don't be a say-saying about it, but just appreciate,
yes. And of course, we have to admit that having this kind of parasocial relationship means you are further on the spectrum towards that negative outcome. But as long as you're not at that negative outcome, I think it's okay now. I don't look at it as negatively as I used to. I think of it as maybe just necessary. Maybe just a necessary outgrowth of our modern life. And some people might think it's sad or whatever, but again, if these people, if they tell you they're happy, and if it's kind of filling this need capably for them, then I don't think it's sad. I think it's suboptimal, but hey, there's plenty of suboptimal outcomes that we have to just deal with in life, right?
Yeah, I don't think you should be sitting there and saying, hey, don't be happy with fan service. Don't like that,
I would say if you think it's cringe, if you think it's weird, and I wouldn't disagree with you, I think some of it can be cringe and weird. I would say have an open mind to the need it does fulfill for some people. They need this kind of human interaction, and they get it from this. And if it doesn't hurt anybody, then, just be happy for them, I guess. And just say, well, I hope you're happy with the outcome you get from this. That's all.
Yeah, you just respect other fans' experience as much as whatever you're experiencing. Thank you to our guest, Morgan. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New episodes weekly. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. If you've listened all the way to the end of the episode, you have proven yourself a true fan of the podcast. And in honor of Jimin's appendix removal, comment with a thermometer emoji on our latest Instagram post. Until next time, this has been BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.